So I think we'll start with the Mangalachan Prayers. Rohini, thank you for joining. And we'll start with Mangalachan Prayers, and then we can get started. But before I start with the Mangalachan Prayers, question number 1. Are you able to hear me clearly, Pranay Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. And the second thing is that this is December of 2021. Time is flying really fast. We can't believe that another year has passed, and that too in COVID. It's almost in few months we'll have 2 years of complete COVID. Things are disrupted in ways that one hardly could anyone have foreseen this. But nevertheless, we are here. I take this moment to thank all of you for your sincerity and dedication to read Srila Prabhupada's books and attend the Bhakti Shastri course. There is so much of information that is really overflowing in this world. And internet has made that information not only accessible, but made everyone skeptical as well, because everything is tainted by some personal agenda or some angle, and we feel that we are being played by the information. People have so become petty to the point, or callous to the point, that to help others get the right information, it's become somewhat of a challenge these days. Is that just me, or everybody feels that way? We go online, we have to, it's a fascinating process. If you have to buy something online, how do you make a decision whether that is the best thing for you? And we do whatever we need to do, but sometimes it's a miss, sometimes it's a hit. It's just the way it is. So given the confusion that persists in this material world, and the knowledge often is somewhat flawed, we are extremely grateful to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, that he made sure that the teachings of Krishna are presented to us in the way that is accessible to us. And the best knowledge is something that we can take home with, not take that knowledge and feel somewhat discouraged. In the software industry, I'm sure with other industries, Pranath Prabhu and others, you can chime in. But things are changing so much that whatever you learned at university is hardly applicable to your job. And so the question is, you are constantly trying to update your skills, and the knowledge seems that you have gathered seems to be rather becoming outdated and inapplicable to your day-to-day lives. And oftentimes you get this frustration: is there anything that actually is something that I can take home, something I can know and feel completely satisfied? And the answer is yes. In fact, the sages of Naimisharanya, they were saying that there are too many books, and there was 5,000 years ago. There are too many books, and in them there is so much of information and so many rules and restrictions and regulations. Please give us the essence of all these scriptures and tell the highest thing that is of benefit to the man. And the fact that we in this human form of life have stumbled upon, by our good fortune, the desire, the sincerity, and the platform to read Bhagavad Gita is something I'm truly appreciative of each and every one of you. So sorry for the long preamble, But on that note, I welcome Ram Babu, Chaya Mataji, Priyanka Mataji, Sevananda Chaitanya Prabhu. Please welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji. And also Uttara Mataji as well. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Jai Shri
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. So who are the moderators today? I see ISC1 and ISC2.
Oh, sorry, Prabhu.
No, I just needed to hear your voice. That's all.
Yes, Prabhu.
So thank
yes,
you.
Prabhu. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Krishangi Mataji. Krishangi Mataji is, she is jumping from one service to the next. If you think that this is her only service, then there is so much that she does behind the scenes, like making garlands for the deities and cooking for the deities, and she has to raise a daughter, go to work, and does so many services. So thank you, Krishangi Mataji. All right, we'll start with Mangalachan Prayers, and we'll do the first part of 18th chapter today. So thank you. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So Rohini, will you be able to do your regular service, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Yes, Prabhuji.
That's pronounced. So her service is to call out for the devotees who wish to read the verses. So please type your name in the chat, and Rohini will make sure that she can call. So Rohini, you can start with verse number 1, and then we can go. So the 18th chapter, first verse. Krishangi Mataji, if you want to project, or should I project? I can project as well.
I can share, Prabhu. I'm just trying.
All right.
Bringing, yeah.
No, okay, no problems. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So the 18th chapter, just before it's getting loaded, We have 78 verses. It is the biggest of all the chapters in Bhagavad Gita, followed by the second chapter, which has 72 verses. And we are dividing this chapter into two parts. So we will cover the first part today, and then hopefully we can cover next few parts, or the next part in the next class, and we can discuss that towards the end when the next class is. Right? If you can open the Sanskrit, please. Now just click on text 1. Mataji? Yes, thank you. All right, Rohini, you are ready?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Sannyasasya Mahabaho
Sannyasya Mahabaho
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum
Tyagasya Cha Hrishikesha
Tyagasya Cha Rishikesha
Pritakeshi Nisudhana.
Pritakeshi Nishudana. Translation. Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, Tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, Sannyas. O killer of the Keshi demon, master of the senses.
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada actually writes in the purport that the Bhagavad Gita, whatever Krishna wished to speak, was completed in the 17 chapters. And if you see the purport, actually the Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters. The 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of the topics discussed before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. The same point is summarized in the 18th chapter as the most confidential path of knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, stress was given to devotional service, yoginam api sarvesham, of all the yogis or transcendentalists. One who always thinks of me within himself is the best. In the next 6 chapters, pure devotional service and its nature and activities were discussed. In the third 6 chapters, knowledge, renunciation, and the activities of material nature and transcendental nature and devotional service were described. It was concluded that all acts should be performed in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, represented by the words Om Tat Sat, which indicate Vishnu, the Supreme Person. So this is the overall breakdown of the particular chapter or the overall division of Bhagavad Gita. And Srila Prabhupada, spent some time explaining or trying to help us understand the broad division of Bhagavad Gita. And also Krishna is mentioned here as Hrishikesha and Keshi Nishudhana, which means that Keshi is a demon, but also demons can be doubts. So since Krishna is expert in killing all sorts of demons, and the doubts which have arisen like demon, Arjuna is asking Krishna to kill them as well. So that is the first verse. Second verse, and Rohini.
We have Timir Prabhu is next.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.
Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam
Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam
Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu
Sannyasam Kavayo Viduhu
Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam
Sarva Karma Phala Tyagam
Prahus Tyagam Vichakshana.
Rahus Tyagam vichakshana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great learned men call the renounced order of life, sannyas, and giving up the results of all activities is what the wise call renunciation, tyaga. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you. One question which might be asked here is the giving up of all activities that are based on material desire. So doesn't sannyasi eat, or doesn't sannyasi wear clothes, or travel, or things like that? Isn't that material desire? And what is sannyas here? A question might arise. But Krishna is saying that those who live in this world and just maintain this body, they are not implicated in a lot of sins. In the modern world, we see that there is a big hue and cry right now about saving the planet, going green, right? Is those catchphrases? The idea here is, in the previous times, the sages really knew, didn't they know that they could also manufacture genes, or they could manufacture motor cars, or what the earth could hold? But they were so cognizant of the damage that can cause to this planet just by a very selfish and self-centered exploitative mentality. The modern civilization is learning it rather late, with this so much of climate changes, so much of the world is actually churning so deeply, and now they are realizing it. Now after 100 and whatever 50 years of scientific advancement, we have come to the conclusion that eating beef is not healthy for the planet, and it's a pretty common thing. And somebody can quote me, or somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, but now they are going, if you eat beef, it's not healthy for the planet, and they did all the math saying that the killing the cows causes this much, this. But this was already there in Vedic scriptures. All we had to do was to follow them. And Krishna said that keep it simple. And unfortunately, in the modern context, it's a different thing. But we'll discuss more on that point. So thank you. Next verse, please.
Next is Priyanka Mataji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Tyajyam doshavadyeke
Tyajyam doshavadityeke
karma prahur manishinaha
karma prahurmanishinaha
yajnadana tapakarma
yagyadana tapah karma
natyajyam iti chapare.
na tyajyam iti chapare. Translation. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain the acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned.
Thank you. Because sometimes people ask, if performing activities causes karmic reactions in this world, might as well not perform activities. Might as well stop doing all these activities, then I won't get the reaction. And some sages kind of have that, and Krishna is saying that he's giving the opposing argument of the two set of sages, where one set says that all these fruitive activities are faulty and should be given up, whereas others say that no, you cannot give up the sacrifice, charity, and penance. You should perform them. And Krishna is kind of giving his opinion. Next verse, please.
Next is Kripatita Mataji.
Right, thank you. Nischayam shrunu me tatra
Nischayam shrinu me tatra
tyage bharata sattama
tyage bharata sattama
tyago hi purusha vyagra
tyago hi purusha vyagra
Trividaha samprakirtitaha.
Trividiha samprakirtita. Translation: O best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. O tiger among men, when Krishna addresses Arjuna, it's more of an indication of mental prowess of Arjuna. He says that like tiger in the forest is not disturbed by like small animals or insects or flies that are going around. You should not be disturbed by the different philosophical differences or conclusions. And that's the reason why Acharyas say Krishna uses O tiger among men. And but there can be many people who can say many things, but when Krishna says it is the supreme absolute truth, it constitutes the Vedas. So let's see what is Krishna's opinion on this particular matter, and which is mentioned in the next verse.
Next is Dhira Madhavi Mataji.
Okay. If you can go back, just click on the back button. Oh, no, click on the back, go in the previous verse. You just need to click on the back button. Okay, come down and then click on next. Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisance.
Dandavat Pranam, Jai
All
Shri
good, Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Yeah.
Thank you. I did get your question, so I'll answer it as well. So just to
Sure,
let you know.
Prabhu. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yajna dana tapa karma
Yajna dana tapa karma
natyajam karyamevata
natyajam karyam eva tat
yajna danam tapaschaiva
yagyo danam tapaschaiva
pavanani manishina.
pavanani manishanam. Translations. Act of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the good souls. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. You know, if you see the purport, Srila Prabhupada actually, I think there was maybe some people who might have criticized he arranging the marriage of his disciples. And Srila Prabhupada, he uses the example or the importance of marriage ceremony. He says the marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. Krishna is saying that all these acts of sacrifice should never be given up, and they purify the people. And one of the sacrifices Srila Prabhupada highlights in the purport is, he says that the marriage, for example, is one of the acts of sacrifice. It's called Vivaha Yajna. And, you know, sannyasi is the one who has renounced the family life and renounced the family affairs. When the sannyasi has done it, why should he, when he rejected the whole marriage institution, why is he plunging or pushing his disciples to get married? And Srila Prabhupada says that, you know, the sannyasi may be really elevated, but his disciples are not. So to encourage them to get married actually is the right thing according to the injunctions of the Shastras. Otherwise, the purification will never happen. And anybody and everybody, I think pretty much everybody on this call will attest to the fact that how austere and purifying marriage can be. But if it's taken in that spirit, but if the spirit is more in terms of, you know, I need to enjoy, and somehow this marriage is meant for my own egoistic satisfaction, both the man will think like that and the women will think like that, and the marriage will run into trouble. And as so many marriages these days have run into such trouble. So text 6.
Ishwari Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Ishwari Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Etanya pitu karmani
Etani api tu karmani
sangam tyaktva phalani cha
sangam tyaktva phalani cha
kartavyani ti me partha
kartavyani me partha
nishchitam matam uttamam.
nishchitam matam uttamam. Translation. All these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. They should be performed as a matter of duty. O son of Pritha, that is my final opinion. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. And such a all beautiful instruction Krishna is giving. In this material world, every nation, or even within the nation, the government, somehow they act with the wrong mentality. And we have seen the cases of administration within the US where they were very partial to the people who voted for them and were very punishing to the people who didn't vote for them, in this case, the states. So you can see how this, driven by this fruitive mentality, people are really working the wrong way up. And Krishna is saying that we should perform these activities without expectation of any result. Next verse.
Next is Chaya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Niyatasya tu sannyasah
Niyatasya tu sannyasah
karmano nopapadyate
karmano nopapadyate
mohatasya parityaga
mohatasya parityagas
tamasa parikirtitah.
tamasah parikirtitah. Translation. Prescribed duties should never be renounced. If one gives up his prescribed duties because of illusion, such renunciation is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. And here, Arjuna was actually wanting to give up his duty of fighting in the beginning because of the illusion that he wanted to avoid going to hell or killing his family members or superiors. And Krishna, that's the reason he cautioned, saying that Arjuna, if you don't perform your duty, then you will accrue sin, right? So in the same way, if one is in, because one of the questions commonly comes up, especially amongst devotees, is, should I just give up my job and just full time, do devotional service and Krishna will take care? Or should I actually do my prescribed duties? And the fact of the matter is that one's aspiration must be always to do prescribed duties. Because if time comes, then the prescribed duties actually become somewhat of an impediment for Krishna consciousness. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas because he reached, he is the extent, of course, he's a supreme absolute truth, and he's independent to do whatever he wants to do. But just to show to the world, when he came back from Gaya after doing the Shraddha ceremony for his father, or his departed father, he met Ishwara Puri, and then he became very transformed, and his love of God had erupted in his heart, and day and night he pined for Krishna. Externally, internally he took sannyas, externally he took sannyas because this is what happened. While he was absorbed in such ecstatic mood of separation from Krishna, and he was absorbed in the mood of gopis. Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadu Vargena Vakalpita. The highest form of worship of Sri Krishna is shown by the gopis of Vrindavan. And he was absorbed in the mood of the gopis, and he was crying out, the name of the gopis. Some of the students who were of the same age as him, they dared to comment or correct the Lord. They said, "Oh Nimai, what's wrong with you? You should chant the names of Krishna, and then it will be beneficial. But you are just being very emotional and chanting the name of gopis. What is really wrong with you?" And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was feeling separation from Krishna, and part of that separation, or part of the moods of the separation, is called man. And because we talk of love of Godhead, which is prema, but after prema there is sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, mahabhava. And he was feeling that intense separation from Krishna. So he was, part of that is you just chastise Krishna. You are not showing me your beautiful face, may I die. Why are you so cruel upon your servants? In fact, it is mentioned like that. In the Gopi Gita, it is mentioned. The exact verse is No. Let me look up that verse. Sorry, I'm going off into a little tangent here, but
Do you want me to share the Gopi Gita, Prabhu?
no. It's okay, Mati. This is just for those who want to look up. I can just share it. But I'm looking for that specific verse where this one, right? This is the second verse from the text, or second text from chapter 31 of Canto 10. The gopis, after singing the first verse, this is the second verse they sing. Sharadudasaye sadhujata sa sarasi jodaro shri mushadrisha Suratanathate asulkadasika varadane nehakim vadaha. The translation for that particular verse is, O Lord of love, in beauty your glance excels the wall of the finest, most perfectly formed lotus within the autumn pond. O bestower of benediction, you are killing your maidservants who have given themselves to you freely without any price. Isn't this murder? Literally, you are killing us. And then, you can see the emotions that come out from the gopis. And this is somewhat of a, sometimes it can get into a very transcendentally beautiful anger that can erupt on the part of gopis. And and Mahaprabhu was in that mood. And when the devotees came, when his students came, and they tried to correct him, Mahaprabhu got really angry, upset, and he started chasing them with a stick. That rascal Krishna, how dare you ask me to chant his name when he left us like this, dying us in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of forest. We came all the way from our home and we wanted to dance with this fellow. And then he left us in the middle of forest and he left off. And, you can see the whole emotions that go on. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually took a stick and started chasing them. And the students, they got all together. They became really upset. They became angry. And they thought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was an ordinary person. They themselves were scholars. How dare he correct them? So they said, If he does this again, then we will punish him in kind. If he comes chasing with a stick, we will go after chasing him with a stick or do worse. When people were talking like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought within himself, I have come to save this whole world. And if people don't offer their respects and their worship to me, manmana bhavamad bhakto, then they'll be actually committing offenses. Instead of helping them being delivered from the world, they'll be implicated more in the offense. So with that external view, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas to even get respects from those who are unwilling to give him respects, and thus they can be delivered. And Srila Prabhupada writes that in 500 years ago in India, people would strictly offer the respects to sannyasi. And by that method, by that cunning trick, Mahaprabhu induced everybody to serve him. And the second more important reason was that his deep separation from Krishna was burning his heart day and night. That fire of separation was burning from his heart, and he was unable to perform any duties. He was teaching his Chatuspati. He opened his own school and he was teaching. But the children came to learn grammar, and he spent the entire grammar teaching about Krishna. In fact, every root, every dhatu, every verb was the name of Krishna. In fact, Srila Jiva Goswami actually composed a whole book, Harinamamrita Vyakarana. And Mahaprabhu spent the whole day teaching about Krishna, and he said, what have I been telling from that time? And then when you reach such a stage where there is the internal calling and there is word from Krishna that now is the time that you can quit your prescribed duties. Till that point of time, one's aspiration actually should not to worry too much about whether I will retire now or retire later. We should have a plan, but Krishna will ordain that, but we'll do our best to kind of follow Krishna's plan. Is that a fair thing? We can stop and take some questions and some answers before we move on. There are a lot of verses to cover, but I'll be happy to take some questions. And if the devotees so desire, then maybe in the last class or after the last class, we can all sing the Gopi Geet together. Thank you, Pranath. Yes. All right, we'll do the next verse. Rohini, who's next?
Next is Atulya Harinam Prabhu.
Hey, Atulya Harinam Prabhu. So happy to see you. Hare Krishna. You're able to see, looks like you're in the car. Are you able to see the screen and read, or?
Yeah. I am able to. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. The verse number 8. Yeah, thank you. Dukkamityeva yat karma.
Dukkham ityeva yat karma.
Kaya klesha bhayat tyajet.
Kaya klesha bhayat tyajet.
Sakritva rajasam tyagam.
Sakritva rajasam tyagam.
Naiva tyaga phalam labhet.
Naiva tyaga phalam labhet. Translation: anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation.
Thank you. And it's I had an interesting story I heard. In any case, we can come to that story a little later. We'll cover a few more verses. I believe we are still in the single digits. So Krishna is first describing the activities that are done, or the prescribed activities that are rejected, or the do in the modes, different modes. And next he's going to divide up the action and the doer. So next, Rohini.
Next is Sevananda Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Karyamityeva yat karma
Karyam iti eva yat karma
niyatam kriyate Arjuna
niyatam kriyate Arjuna
sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva
sangam tyaktva phalam chaiva
satyaga satviko mataha.
satyaga satviko mataha. Translation: O Arjuna, when one performs his prescribed duty only because it ought to be done and renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit, his renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
And oftentimes, in the material world, there is so much of anxiety if you think of results first rather than action first. If a parent constantly pressurizes their kids that you should get the first class, or you should go to Stanford or Yale or Berkeley or Harvard or MIT, or if a person is working at a job thinking that the reason I'm working for is to get that promotion, while they may motivate you to work, and Krishna is saying that kind of work is in the mode of passion, they actually won't give you some meaningful happiness, because the moment you realize that your fruits are not being achieved. For example, I'll give us example. A person is working in the office. He cultivated over a period of time the trust with his boss or her boss. And he or she worked really hard to kind of get the promotion, and the boss is also in line with kind of agreeing to that promotion. And one fine day, due to some reason, the boss leaves the company, whether it is through accidental death or whatever way. The boss is gone, and the person becomes devastated. I worked so hard to kind of get to this position, and the person might not show any interest in work. What's the point in working anyways? I won't get that promotion. And you can see how this kind of thinking, actually, Krishna is saying that, it hampers. You just do your duty. And the other great thing is the expectation. When you have that kind of expectation, then there is so much of anxiety. But if a person does his duty well, whether he gets or she gets praise or blame, credit or discredit, you just keep working. As in, like, you do your duty. It's not like you keep working in a robot way. A robot is in the factory and robot is working. You take a stick and beat the robot with it, saying you are fools, you are nonsense, whatever words you want to use, and the robot will still keep working. That is not the point when I said you should keep working or not. Krishna is saying you should keep working. But the idea here is that the fruitive mentality is something that propels you to work, shouldn't be the only reason. After a stage, it's just the duty that's born that should be the driving. So far, so good? Good? Okay, we'll complete a few more verses and then we can stop, maybe at 20.
Next is Rambabu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ramababu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Nadveshtya kushalam karma.
Nadveshtya kushalam karma.
Kushalena anusajjate.
Kushalena anusajjate.
Tyagi sattva samavishto.
Tyagi sattva samavishto.
Medhavi chinna samshayaha.
Medhavi chinna samshayaha. Translation: the intelligent renouncer, situated in mode of goodness, neither hateful of inauspicious work nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubts about work. Thank you.
Thank you. So the reason Krishna is mentioning about this verse is when because oftentimes as devotees we have this doubt, I am not doing so many other obligatory duties, maybe to my forefathers, or doing other sorts of yajnas, and maybe there is some astrological aspect I need to take care of, or maybe there is some maybe you can throw in something, or some the Lord says that one has no doubt. One is just neither afraid or hateful of inauspicious work, nor attached to auspicious work, has no doubt about work at all, because the focus is somehow or other to please Krishna. And if one works in that consciousness, then one, rest assured, doesn't have to worry so much. Text 11.
Next is Prananath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Nahi deha vrita shakyam
Nahi deha vrita sakyam
tyaktum karmanya seshatah
tyaktum karmani asheshataha
yastu karma phalatyagi
yastu karma phalatyagi
satyagi satyagitya vidhiyate.
satyagiti abhidhiyate. Translation: It is indeed impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, but he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. What was the first question that Arjuna asked Krishna in the beginning of the chapter? What is the difference between sannyasa and tyaga, or sannyasa and renunciation? So the Lord answers who is sannyasi, but tyaga is something he is dwelling at length right now, because he realizes that most of us are household activities or household workers. We just don't worry so much about sannyas right now, but rather tyaga. So what happens if I don't do all these things that Krishna mentions? That you have to do your prescribed duty without expecting any attachment, without doing all these things that Krishna mentions. Is there, people might say, big deal. What's the problem? Why should I kind of follow Krishna's words? And Krishna is saying the results or the ramifications of not following his instructions. At 12th verse.
Next is Divyangi Lalita Mataji.
Wonderful. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Anishtamishtam mishram cha
Anishtamishtam mishram cha
trividam karmana phalam
Trivedam karmanah phalam
bhavatyattyaginam pretya
Bhavatyattyaginam pretya
nato sannyasinam kvache.
Nato sannyasinam kvachit. For one who is not renounced, the threefold fruits of action, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, accrue after death. But those who are in the renounced order of life have no such result to suffer or enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you. Here Krishna is saying that for those whose mentality is in the mode of passion or ignorance, then you are bound up in the material world and the results accrue, which means Krishna is saying that you have to take birth. Implicitly, he is saying that you have to take birth and death again to enjoy or to suffer the results of one's work. And mixed result is a funny thing. I thought about Karma Mishra. What is mixed result? Mixed result is that you get something that it's neither happiness nor it's distress. It's somewhere in between. Recently, I was reading somewhere that a person had a question or a query. he's an old gentleman. He's, according to the query, he's 80 years old. And I don't know when he bought, but he bought a house in Palo Alto in California, which is very expensive, for $30,000. That is less than a price of a simple SUV today. He got this for the $30,000, and according to my estimate, he must have got the house some house in 60s, maybe 60s or something like that. Because in those days, I think the price of the house was like $30,000. And now that house is $3 million. He has this problem now, and he gave that house for rent. And he's saying, how can I give this house to my children without they incurring the property tax? Because when the house is sold, the government says this house is worth $3 million, and you have to pay the property tax of $3 million, which their children cannot pay. So a simple thing is that, yes, he got 100 times the gain on the house, right? The 30,000, 10 times is 300, and 100 times is 3 million. So his house appreciated by 100 times. But then there is always this fear, what happens, how can I give it? So this is a mixed result. This is neither here nor there kind of thing. Next.
Prabhuji, you can call on some devotees.
Okay, first I'll call Krishnangi Mataji because she didn't anyway read. So. All right. Panchaitani Mahabaho.
Panchaitani Mahabaho.
Karanani Nibodhame.
Karanani Nibodhame.
Sankhye Kritante Proktani.
Sankhye Kritante Proktani.
Siddhaye Sarvakarmana.
Siddhaye Sarvakarmana. Translation: O mighty armed Arjuna, according to the Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all actions. Now learn of these from me. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. So Krishna is now dividing. When you say that perform activities, Krishna is like splitting up what are the 5 causes. And then he is also going to divide up the knowledge and the doer, and the 3 components of knowledge, the 3 components of the doer, and then how each of them can be in different modes. So you can see how complicated is karma when a particular act is carried out in this material world. It's just unbelievable, the amount of complexity that task has, which seems so ordinary and simple. But if you take it from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita, it's not so simple. And Krishna says the same thing in the 4th chapter, where he says that what is akarma, what is karma, and what is vikarma is even difficult to be understood by those who are intelligent. So, all right. So, okay. So, Bhumika Mataji, did you do? You want to read?
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. Adhishtanam tata karta.
Adhishthātanam tatha karta.
Karanam cha pritagvidam.
Karanam cha pritagvidam.
Vividascha pritak cheshta.
Vividascha pritak chesta.
Daivam chaivatra panchamam.
Daivam chaivatra panchanam. Translation: the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that ultimately all the things depend on the super soul. whether a person might do it or not do it. There is not just one cause of action, there is 5 causes of action. And this is where it gets a little tricky. How do I know who caused this? In an ordinary sense, people are very depressed or very elated when they accomplish something or fail to accomplish something. But please understand that all the impetus happens by will of Krishna, and unless the Lord kind of approves that, it might or might not happen. So to blame only Krishna for our actions, God made me do this, it could be a possibility, it could be not, because amongst the 5 factors, there could be many other factors as well. There's a 20% chance, strictly speaking, if you take it from purely mathematical perspective, Dr. Nandi. So there's a 20% chance that that the Lord made you do this. But to blame everything, or to say that Krishna is making me do everything, or I am the only doer and there is no other doer, both are the two end opposite of the spectrum, and Krishna is confirming as such. Next verse, 15.
Prabhuji, Smita Mataji would like to read.
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Is Nitish also going to read, or only just you?
Yes, he is also there, Prabhuji.
All right, because I was about to call on Nitish, so I'm glad you just. All right, 15. Shariravan manobhirya.
Oh, it's
No.
not showing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not showing. Okay. That Mataji will just move it. Krishangi Mataji will just move it. Sorry. Krishangi Mataji, are you there?
Not fire.
Okay. Let me share the screen, and then we can do that. Okay. Let me share the screen once. You're able to see the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, let me increase the font a little bit more so you can see better. Is this better?
Yes, Prabhu.
All right, perfect. Shariravan manobhirya.
Shariravan manobhiryat.
Karma prarabhate naraha.
Karma prarabhate naraha.
Nyayam va viparitam va.
Nyayam va viparitam va.
Panchaite tasya hetavaha.
Panchaite tasya hetavaha. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors.
Thank you. Since you both repeated so nicely, and anyway you get to read one, please let's do one more, and translation can be done by Mataji this time. So, text 16. Tatraivam sati kartaram.
Tatraivam sati kartaram.
Atmanam kevalam tu yaha.
Atmanam kevalam tu yaha.
Pashyatya krita buddhitvan.
Pashyatya krita buddhitvan.
Na sapashyati durmatihi.
Na sapashyati durmatihi.
Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are.
So perfect. So Krishna is just reiterating the same thing. So part of why, this is a tricky question. Part of why we are, seeing that actions, it's easy to criticize others thinking that they are the doer, but one can never know for sure whether the impetus of an activity of a particular person is the person himself, or is it impelled by the Lord? So that's the reason why our criticisms might actually be counterproductive in the long run. So one should take time to understand this truth. Oftentimes you criticize a person for something that they have done, and the person who is being criticized also should understand that I tried, my intentions were right, and it didn't come out well. And maybe this is what Krishna wanted, in spite of the best of my efforts. And be satisfied with the fact that the criticism given by someone else, is based on their vision that I am the doer as well. So it goes both the ways. So, one should get great solace from Bhagavad Gita saying that it's just not me. Oftentimes the severest form of depression that takes in this world is somehow or other a person gets overwhelmed by the fact that he or she is responsible for what she has done throughout, or he has done throughout their life, and that can cause deep anxiety, where Krishna is saying that is not particularly the case. And here he's so clearly saying durmatihi means that, literally he's saying foolish. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. And having said that, but we should do our duty, as Krishna mentions earlier, whatever comes. So that is the kind of issue. Good. Questions, comments so far?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Rambabu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, should we, is it to be considered that all these 5 factors are acting simultaneously, or one of these factors are driving the person in a higher degree? So, based on that, the action depends, right?
Good question. So, Rambabu, if I understand your question, is only one of the 5 factors responsible, or is there a hybrid version where 2 are responsible 50-50, or 3 are responsible 33-33, 4 are responsible 25, or 5 are responsible 20% each, kind of thing?
Yeah, Prabhu, but sometimes the soul may not have a desire to perform that particular action, but maybe due to the material nature, right, impelling him to do it, he may be doing the action. The action may be against his desire also. That part I want to understand. So is the soul is really aloof, or he also has the part to do in that?
I see. Good question. In the 3rd chapter, so let's see if we go to the 3rd chapter and see if, let me pull this to the side if I can, and then just go here. Is your question something like this to Arjuna?
Yes, bro.
So here, and then specifically Arjuna is asking Krishna by what one is impelled to sinful acts. If a person performs sinful acts, is it induced by the Lord because of one of the factors, or is that person responsible? And in the answer to your question is, the living entity performs activities either with knowledge or with ignorance. And to the degree the living entity performs actions in the spirit of false ego, in ignorance, on the platform of false ego, then the living entity is responsible for the actions of one's work. And usually false ego is under the control of mind, and the mind is just dictating under the spells of modes of do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And the Lord is saying at that point of time, based on your karma or your destiny, you can do so much or you can act so much. I will withhold from other things. So the Lord motivates action where the karma is there. I'll give another example. 9/11, everybody knows. Anybody who doesn't know about 9/11, please raise their hand. Divyangi Mataji, I know you have a question, that's why you raised, so I know that. Right? So there are so many stories of how people who were supposed to be in those towers were not there, and people who are not supposed to be in the towers were there. Somebody said that, I'm never late. On that day, for some reason or other, I missed my train and I was late by 5 minutes. I had to take the next train, and the towers collapsed. Somebody said my child was sick and I couldn't go. Somebody said that I was not feeling well, and some people who actually were perished in the towers, they had no business to be there. They were either just visiting, they were just there out of no place. So who is the one that is pushing these people? And we can see how the Lord uses his prerogative to impel people to act if there is some karmic reactions that need to be given, which the Lord will give. And people will think, no, it's because of me only, and they suffer like that. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhuji. So the soul is held responsible for whatever reactions are that are coming to him, and Lord is facilitating through material nature. Is that the way to understand?
Correct. And the soul, based on the ignorance, takes on the reactions of the world. Because Krishna is saying, Baba, I'm not going to take the responsibility of your sins. And he can't be more clear than this Rambhava Prabhu. And that is this verse. He says, even though I am pushing you to do stuff, I'm not responsible. Here he says, Nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukritam vibhugo ajnena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. He says, neither the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied living entities, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers the real knowledge. So, is that helpful, Rambhava Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's if I am ignorant of different factors at play and I think I am the only cause, then you will suffer, because invariably you will suffer, because every time you cannot be successful and every time you cannot make the perfect business plan or make the perfect strategy, and then you will suffer. But for those who are detached, when the success comes, they are not elated. When failure comes, they are not depressed. It's Krishna is mentioning that, saying that these things will come and go. One last point is that to the extent one is attached to the passionate activities or being in the mode of passion, to that extent, there is every chance one commits sinful activities on the strength. Is that helpful overall, the theme?
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Who's next?
Next is Meenakshi Vishnupriya Mataji.
All right. I will just quickly go over to see if Krishnangi Mataji is back, then she can take over. Otherwise, I'll continue. Okay. All right. Meenakshi Mataji, you there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Yasya naham krito bhavo.
Yasya naham krito bhavo.
Buddhir yasya na lipyate.
Buddhir yasya na lipyate.
Atvapi sa imal lokan.
Atvapi sa iman lokan.
Nahanti na nibadyate.
Nahanti na nibadyate. Translation. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled through the killing, even in this world, does not kill, nor is he by his actions, bound
Thank
by
you.
his actions.
Thank you. So here Krishna is saying one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, he does not kill. It's a very profound and amazing statement. And while it may seem contradictory, it's not, there is an easy example to give. For example, if you go into the court, then if the person is found guilty of a particular crime, the judge orders him for a death sentence. Is that a common thing? Is that something that it is possible in this world? Timir agrees, and I do agree. But is the judge being charged with murder for sentencing another man to death? Okay, now let's sue the judge because he killed this person. Is that no? Because why? Because he's doing according to the law. So Krishna is saying those who are not motivated by false ego, though they kill persons in this world, they are not killing. And Arjuna had the initial doubt. If I kill these people, then I'm implicated. But Krishna is saying, as long as you don't act on the platform of false ego, then you are not implicated. Otherwise, you are entangled. And think about it. People in this world do so many, profane and illicit activities just to get some wealth or some fame or some money, not knowing the fact that just more and more entangling themselves in the complexities of this world. And Srila Prabhupada writes it also in the same thing. And the other example he gives is that, in the soldier, when he kills in the battlefield under the command of a superior person, he gets a medal. Or when the same soldier picks a fight in a restaurant and kills, a member or a visitor to that restaurant, he's implicated because it was not authorized. So, well, on that note, the bigger question that comes, I'll raise the question, but let's discuss the answer later. Well, Prabhu, the cow killing and the other animal killing is authorized by the government. So why are people who kill the cows are being implicated? And you are talking about cow killing. So that's another thing we can discuss later. But it's legal. It's legal. So Divyangi Lalita Mataji, I'm sorry you had your hand raised for a long time.
That's okay, Prabhu. I had a question on the 14th verse, Prabhu.
Okay, 14th. All right, let's do the 14th. Okay, let's do the 14th. Yes, Mate.
So here we have the body and the senses both listed out separately, Prabhu. So I do not get why it seems like the senses are part of the body. So that was one question, and the other thing is like in the third chapter we have the 3 modes of material nature. It says that's what impulse a person to act. So here we don't see the 3 modes. So is it like the performer is influenced by the 3 modes? So is that how the 3 modes come into play with respect to this verse?
The second part of the question I didn't get, Mataji.
In the third chapter we have like the Prakriti Kriyamani Guna. So it says like all actions are conducted by or impelled by the 3 modes. So here the 3 modes are not listed as the 5 causes of action. So should we take it that the performer is being influenced by the 3 modes, so that way they come into action?
I see, got it. So I don't want to pry, Divyangi Mataji, but you are in the kitchen, correct?
Sorry, Prabhu, can you say that one more time?
I don't want to pry, but you are in the kitchen, correct?
No, Prabhu. In the living room.
Oh, you're in the living room. Okay, sorry. The reason is I heard some noise from the kitchen, and the reason was this. So assume that your good husband wants to eat let's throw an example. Kachodis that day. Now, you are in the kitchen, but you don't use the utensils or the ingredients for baking the cake to make kachodis, do you?
Correct. So we don't use them.
So same way, kitchen is the body or adhishthanam, and the senses are like the utensils and they drive certain things. So there are 5 components that Krishna is segregating like that. Is that helpful?
Yes, that makes sense. True.
Okay. The second question is, all these, the adhishthanam, tata karta, karanam. So Krishna is saying that these are the 5 constituents, but they are being pushed by the modes of material nature in different way. So for example, how should I give an example? The fire can be the modes of material nature, and based on the quality of the flame or the intensity of the flame, different things are cooked. But the same way, these items, though they are the constituents of the action, but these are being pushed by the modes of nature, as much as the fire is found in the oven is the same as the stove, but it's influenced in different ways on different things. Is that helpful, Mata?
Yes, so totally makes sense, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go back to next verse here.
Next is Rajanandini Mataji.
Rajanandini Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Jnanam jneyam saparignata. Sorry, jnanam jneyam parignata.
Jnanam jneyam parignata.
Trividha karma chodana.
Trividha karma chodana.
Karanam karma karteti.
Karanam karma karteti.
Trividha karma sangraha.
Trividaha karma sangraha. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower are the 3 factors that motivate action. The senses, the work, and the doer are the 3 constituents of action.
Thank you. So you can see how there is the subtle aspect. Also, there is a gross aspect. For example, if Rajanandini Mataji, wants to bake a cake, and then, but the cake is not there immediately. She thinks about the cake. What should I put on the cake? What sort of flavor do we add on the cake? What sort of, how many layers should be the cake? What sort of dough? Is it Ekadashi cake or non-Ekadashi cake? And then, how many layers? What is the inscription? You see, so many things are happening that are just nothing happened yet. They are happening on a subtle level. And then when she starts making the cake, then it just manifests it. So knowledge, the object of knowledge and the knower on that subtle realm, and the senses, the work and the doer are on the gross realm. And both are needed for completion of a particular work. Thank you, Rajanandini Mataji. Okay, next.
Prabhuji, you can call some people.
All right. Okay, then I'll go with Kripatita Mataji, Ishwari Radha Mataji, and then Pranath.
Okay.
Is that okay, Kripatita Mataji?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just unmuting. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Jnanam karma cha karta cha.
Jnanam karma cha karta cha.
Tridaiva guna vedataha.
Tridaiva guna vedata.
Prochate guna sankhyaane.
Prochate guna sankhyaane.
yatavat shrunutanyaphi.
Yatavat Shrinutani api. Translation. According to the three different modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear of them from me. Haribol.
Thank you. Haribol. So, so you can see how quickly a single act can have multiple combinations. Three kinds of knowledge times three kind of action times three kind of performer of action. And you can see how in just in this verse, Krishna is giving like 27 possible ways on which the action can be performed. And beautiful purports, but we can go through. Ishwari Radhanathi.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the Lord is discussing about the knowledge. What constitutes knowledge in goodness, passion, and ignorance. Sarva bhuteshu yenaikam.
Sarva bhuteshu yenekam.
Bhavam avyayam ikshate.
Bhavam avyayam ikshate.
Avibhaktam vibhakteshu.
Avibhaktam avibhakteshu.
Tadjnanam vidhi satvikam.
Tadjnanam vidhi satvikam. Translation. That knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities, though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, so is the living entities having many different types of souls?
No.
Thank you. That was a surprise quiz question. Thank you, Mataji. Pranath Prabhu.
Yes.
Okay. Pritakwena tu yajnanam.
Pratakwena tu yagnanam.
Nana bhavan pritagvidam.
Nana bhavan pritagvidhan.
Veti sarveshu bhuteshu.
Veti sarveshu bhuteshu.
Tajnanam vidhi rajasam.
Tajnanam vidhi rajasam. Translation. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. And oftentimes, correct me if I'm wrong, there are people who see others, in very different ways. If there is a very rich person, then or a very powerful person, they become suddenly deferential and sweet and nice and polite and talking. But where you see a homeless person or a person begging on the street, your reactions are very different, right? Or you can see how their whole vision is based on the body or just the way the body is placed. That's what Krishna is saying. All right. Rohini, you want to go next?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right. Yattu Krishnavadeka. Yattu Krishnavadekasmin.
Yattu Krishnavadekasmin.
Thank you. Yattu Krishnavadekasmin.
Yattu Krishnavadekasmin.
Karye saktam ahaitukam.
Karye saktam ahaitukam.
Attatvartavadalpam cha.
Attatvartavadalpam cha.
Tattamasam udahritam.
Tattamasam udharitam. Translation. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness.
So if you can read the first few lines of the purport.
Yes. Purport. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of the scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the supreme, with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness.
Thank you. Rohini, is that, do you see it in the ordinary life, or is it just me?
Yes, Prabhuji, in the ordinary life also.
It's like, it's pretty much pervasive. Ishwari Radha Mataji is smiling. It's like, this is life. And Krishna is saying, but this knowledge is in the mode of ignorance. If for people who are saying just go to the college, earn your degree and work hard and just maintain your body with no consequence, thinking that somehow or other, if you can just maintain this life, this lifetime, then you're done. It's so shallow and so limited. And it's unfortunate, actually. Yeah. And what sort of work is in the mode of goodness? We will see passion and ignorance. Is Nitish and Uttara Mataji, did you read?
No, Prabhuji.
All right, let's go. After this will be Ramalingam. All right. Niyatam Sangarahitam.
Niyatam Sangarahitam.
Araga Dveshata Kritam.
Araga Dveshata Kritam.
Afala Prepsuna Karma.
Afala Prepsuna Karma.
Yattat Satvikam Uchyate.
Yattat Satvikam Uchyate. Translation. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results is said to be in the mode of goodness.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
And Hare Krishna. So there is a word which is regulated and which is neither having, without love or attachment. One of the questions people ask is that, if their body is temporary and if the body is not me and I'm the spirit soul, then why even exercise? Because the body is anyway going to get destroyed. So Krishna is saying that, that is true, but you are in the body. So don't hate or don't love your body. Just maintain it, properly use, by eating right quantity and quality of prashadam and getting exercise and so on and so forth. Not expecting that now that I'm doing so much of exercise, I live forever. And, not being too depressed saying that what's the point of this body anyways, it as well die, might not even worry about it. All right, Ramalingam, you there?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yattu kamepsuna karma.
Yattu kamepsuna karma.
Sahankarena va punaha.
Sahankarena va punaha.
Kriyate bahulayasam.
Kriyate bahulayasam.
Tadrajasam udahritam.
Tadrajasam udahritam. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion.
Thank you. So, Hare Krishna. And you can see how when Srila Prabhupada says that the modern work is mainly in the mode of passion and ignorance, this is what is mentioned here. And you can see how it is so true. So, sometimes devotees, as devotees, we do have this, we have the career aspirations. And we see, if you have to do certain spiritual practices, like we have to spend like a couple of hours in the morning chanting, we do other services to the temple. It is actually eating into our time that we can spend on career development. And looks like we are kind of wasting our time doing Krishna consciousness. So, Pranath Prabhu, what would be your response or answer to that? Actually, I'll ask not Pranath Prabhu, Atulya. Atulya is there. Atulya Harinam Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
You're driving, but can you talk?
Yes, Prabhu. I can talk.
Yeah. So then the question is, Atulya, what's the point? Why waste your time with this Hare Krishna and all that stuff when you can spend your time updating your skills and getting better job?
But those are temporary skills, that will end.
Right. Yeah. So, if you can, as devotees, work in such a way that you can do your skills and upgrade your skills and grow, that's all right. But if you are getting this feeling, everybody is getting promoted in my office and somehow or other I am not doing it, please understand that the modern corporate world is just products of mode of passion and ignorance. And if you are in the mode of goodness, then definitely you will feel out of place. And it is natural to feel that. So I'm not saying you should not stop pursuing your career if that is your, deepest aspiration, but at least have a good mentor that you can approach to kind of clarify the situation, because the modes are at play and you can see how the passion and ignorance on one side and the goodness on another side can collide and clash, and it might be feeling incompatible. So to feel like that is not unnatural. That's the point I'm trying to make. But as Atulya Harinam Prabhu mentioned, that kind of work, taking a corporate or business or my skills as all in all, Krishna is saying it's very meager and it's in the mode of ignorance. And it really is not helpful for the person who's doing those kind of activities. Fair enough? Okay. All right, Nitish, Smita. Should we?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Anubandham kshayam himsam.
Anubandham kshayam himsam.
Anapeksha cha paurusham.
Anapeksha cha paurusham.
Mohadarabhyate karma.
Mohadarabhyate karma.
Yattattamasamuchyate.
Yattattamasamuchyate.
That action performed in illusion and disregard of scriptural injunctions and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Thank you. So here Krishna is mentioning in illusion, in disregard for scriptural injunctions, without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Had Arjuna performed the activity of killing people, he was okay doing that because it was Krishna's direction. But the very fact that he was put into this illusion, or he was put into this thing that if I kill, I'll go to heaven, is actually a deliberation. If you can see, without concern for future bondage or violence, distress. Here, there was a concern for future bondage, and Arjuna said that I'll go to hell if I do this, and violence and distress caused to others. So he means he was a very highly elevated person to kind of think like that. Oftentimes, because of the grossest form of illusion, people just are so self-satisfied or not concerned that they are getting stuff, but what is the future ramifications that nobody kind of thinks. So, but Bhagavad Gita is mentioning that, if you don't think like that, you're in the mode of ignorance, actually. All right, Nitishmita, one more, and then we can move on.
Yes,
after that, we can do Rambabu. Yeah. Mukta Sango Naham Vadi.
Mukta Sango Naham Vadi.
Dhrityutsaha Samanvitaha.
Dhrityutsaha Samanvitaha.
Siddhya Siddhyor Nirvikaraha.
Siddhya Siddhyo Nirvikaraha.
Karta Satvika Uchyate.
Karta Satvika Uchyate. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness.
Thank you. So Krishna is talking about Karta or a worker, and he is giving the information on who it is. Ram Baba?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Ragi karma phala prepsur.
Ragi karma phala prepsur.
Lubdho himsatmako shuchihi.
Lubdho himsatmako suchihi.
Harsha shokanvita karta.
Harsha shokanvita karta.
Rajasaha parikirtitaha.
Rajasaha parikirtitaha. Translation. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and motivated by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last one. Who did I call? Bhumika Mataji? Then we can do. Are you there?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Ayukta prakrita stabda.
Ayukta prakrita stabda.
Shato naish kritiko lasaha.
Shato naiskrityo ratiku lasaha.
Vishadi dirga sutri cha.
Visadi dirga sutri cha.
Karta tamasa uchyate.
Karta tamasa uchyate. Translation. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose, and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, on a practical level, do we procrastinate, or is it just me?
All the time.
So, one of the questions early on in my Krishna consciousness, and even later as well, I thought, am I in the mode of ignorance because I'm procrastinating things? And Krishna is saying that this is the procrastinator is a person who is in the mode of ignorance. I'll just close this. Yeah. So the point here is that we have a finite amount of time, but the obligations that we have to do is pretty big. So invariably, you cannot attend to everything, and few things will fall. When procrastination means that I have to pay a bill and that is due, but I'm too lazy to pay, or so those kinds of things. So when you have to consciously postpone something, it might not be exactly procrastination. So I just wanted to share that thought with you, and I would love to hear other devotees as well, share their thoughts, but just wanted to throw that. in the mix. I do see a couple of raised hands. So since we have 15 minutes and I want to stop at sharp 3 o'clock today, I'll do a few more verses and we'll spend last 4 or 5 minutes and then take the question and answers. Okay, wonderful. Let's see. Sudhama, did you get to read? All right. Who else wants to read? Chaya Mataji, let's go again. And then Sivananda Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hari, sorry, you're there? Sudha Mataji, are you there?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Tanut Pranam. Sorry, I didn't know that it was me. So I just want to make sure. Sudha.
Yes, no problem.
Sudha.
Do you want to read with me now?
Yes, Prabhuji, sure. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Buddher Bedam Driteshchaiva.
Buddher Bedam Driteshchaiva.
Gunatas Trividam Shruno.
Gunatas Trividam Shruno.
Rochyamanam Aseshena.
Rochyamanam Asheshena.
Pritaktvena Dhananjaya.
Pritaktvena Dhananjaya. Okay.
Translation?
Okay, translation. Oh, can I read Prabhuji? Translation?
Yes.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O winner of a wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. So, Hare Krishna. So the determination and understanding Krishna is saying, he is mentioning that as well. All right, Chaya Mataji and then Sivananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Pravritim cha nivritim cha.
Pravritim cha nivritim cha.
Karya karye bhaya bhaye.
Karya karye bhaya bhaye.
Bandham moksham cha yaveti.
Bandham moksham cha yaveti.
Buddhi sapartha satviki.
Buddhi sa partha satviki. Translation. O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. Thank you.
Thank you. Sivananda Chaitanya Prabhu. Sivananda Chaitanya Prabhu, are you there? Okay. All right, Rohini. Go for it. If you want
Yes,
to. Do you have any requests? Or I can just keep calling one devotee. Timir.
Yes, Prabhuji. I can
Yaya. Okay, thank you. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha.
Yaya dharmam adharmam cha.
Karyam cha karyameva cha.
Karyam cha karyameva cha.
Ayatavat prajanati.
Ayathavat prajanati.
Buddhi sapartharajasi.
Buddhi sa partharajasi. Translation. O son of Pritha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. Thank you.
Thank you. Dhiramadavi Mataji. Dhiramadavi Mataji, are you there?
Okay. Yeah, yes, Prabhu.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Adharmam dharmam itiya.
Adharmam dharmam itiya.
Manyate tamasavrita.
Manyate tamasavrata.
Sarvarthan viparitamscha
Sarvarthan vipritamsha
buddhi sapartha tamasi.
buddhi sapartha tamasi. Translation. That understanding which considers irreligion to be irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strive always in the wrong direction, O Partha, is in the mode of ignorance. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
I had a, so Ishwari Radhi Mataji, I had a acquaintance or a friend of an acquaintance who was coming from India, and not my acquaintance, but there are acquaintance of my acquaintance. I don't remember. It was a few years ago, and that person was coming from India, and he was a very avid consumer of alcoholic beverages, and it's like, really. Then it seems my acquaintance asked this person, so you're coming to California or Bay Area for the first time, where do you want to go? And who here didn't hear of Napa Valley? Okay, for those who didn't hear of Napa Valley, it's a big area for producing wines, which are outside of Bay Area. So that person said, I have to go visit Napa Valley. That is the first place I need to go visit. And then my acquaintance was, I think, coming to temple. Well, you should also come visit the temple and see the teachers. No, I don't have time for that. I need to go visit Napa Valley first. Because he is so addicted to drinking alcoholic beverages. That is his punyasthan, or his place of pilgrimage. So Krishna is saying, those who consider irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion, it's a very dangerous and dark situation in this material existence, where thinking can be like that. So, you know what? We have 7 more minutes. I'll stop here. Probably we can pick up from the next class from here onwards, and then we can take the question and answers now, if that's okay. Let me see if I can. Kripa Mataji, you had your hand raised. Mataji, you are muted.
Okay, yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, what I want to ask or comment is the various verses here gives the different categories, action in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, and, the worker, all the different categories. But there will be mixtures also, right? I mean, these are clear demarcations of goodness, passion, or ignorance. But sometimes there will be, mixtures of it also. Yeah, so that's my question or comment.
Excellent question. Thank you so much for bringing that question. And indeed, Krishna does mention in the Gita that modes of material nature don't act. There is always the competition. So when Krishna talks about these, 2 things, I talked about procrastination earlier as well. While it could be because of deliberate procrastination, or sometimes a person is in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, but not necessarily only in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is the prominent mode that a person has that matters. And there is always a mode of passion and ignorance in the person of goodness, and that can be there as well. So you're right, that subtlety is there a little bit, but prominently, most of the time, that person is very determined. Most of the time, the person has clear knowledge of ethical understanding, what is to be done, what is not to be done. Most of the times they are. And once in a while, given to the mode of passion or ignorance, it might slip. Is that helpful? Okay. Other question or comment? And that, if nothing else, anything else? Going once, going twice, going thrice. Okay. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for joining. And I know we have had a little uncertainty in the schedule, so please forgive me for that. Next week, we will not have a class because on that day, we are celebrating locally. Here we are celebrating the auspicious appearance of our spiritual master, the Vyas Puja of our spiritual master. So I beg for your forgiveness to be unable to have the class next week. And the week after, I am unavailable. And the only possible week after that is the 26th, which is the day after Christmas. I'm not sure how many devotees will be up to it. If not, then we can have it in the new year, and this can be the last class for this year. So is that okay, or should we have a class on the 26th of December and complete the 18 chapters, and then before the year ends, and then we can study for the exam? What do you want? You can just put it in the chat as well in the WhatsApp group. I'm okay with either things, but there is no class for next 2 weeks. I just wanted to mention that. Is that okay? Ishwari Radha Mataji, do I have your permission?
Of course, Prabhu. Yes. Whatever everybody agrees with is good.
Okay. I think then I should ask Nitish and Smita.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Yes, somebody was saying something.
Prabhuji, I also heard on 26 we have a gratitude fair, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yes, I did hear that as well. So then the consensus can be that we can have it in the first week of January. I don't know, we'll see. First week of January might be a possibility. Might not be a possibility, we'll see. What would be the 1st of January is a Saturday, the 2nd of January is a Sunday. Then 9th of January is the Sunday. So we can have either on 2nd or on 9th. And then we can have exam. We can discuss on the day of, in the last class, we'll discuss about the exam. How about that? The dates, what is to be done, and so on and so forth. Is that like a fair plan?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Dheera Madhavi Mataji has raised her hand.
Prabhu, I just raised a hand before my question that I sent to you. So I thought I'll ask you, like, what is the trunk stand for, and the flowers and 5 working senses? Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to research it. So can I kind of do that, and I'll let you know in the next class?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely, Prabhu. No worries.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Other questions, comments? All right. I thank you so much for patiently listening. Bhumika Mataji, Divyangi Mataji, Chaya Mataji, all the wonderful devotees. Timir, thank you so much for joining. And I am deeply grateful that you joined. Is there anything I can do for you? All right. I'll see you all mostly in the first week of January. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Really appreciate your classes.
Wish you all a happy new year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Prabhu.
Happy New Year to you too, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.